This is Tim Ryan and my amazing wife.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Jimenez Ryan.
Welcome to the Tim and Jen Show. Hope everyone's been having an amazing week, but once again, we're on lockdown out here in California. What's been going on?
So we officially went on lockdown on Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. I remember walking on Sunday. I take my meditation walks, and I do these quotations because it's my time with me and God, and like I try to find nature.
Hold on, it's her time away from Tim.
I'm not gonna lie, it's true. And I was listening to the neighbors. I walk in the middle of my neighborhood. I walk in the middle of the road, so like I'm by no one, and I could hear everyone talking, going, "Can you believe it? Can you believe it?" And it kind of started hitting me. And then on Monday, it really hit me. What's going on? They're closing down the schools here, and just different things that are happening in this pandemic. And people may want to fight it, and there's a lot of opinions. I get it. The one thing is that yesterday we found out a friend of ours, their mother died. And it's not the first person we found out that died from COVID. And today, about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, I just found out a good buddy of mine I've known for 20 years, Leo, from Kenosha, Wisconsin, was 51 years old. We met through the biker scene, through Jesse James and West Coast Choppers 20 years ago. Leo owned a badass flower store, and he's a Harley rider, but he passed away at 51 years old from COVID complications. And, you know, I deal with a lot of death as we do. And as I told Jen, this hits me because it's not someone dying from alcoholism or drugs. He died from COVID. He's 51. So yeah, this stuff's real. It's alive. And
you know, if you want to, like, you know, no mask, this mask, like screw, there's no pandemic happening. There's coronavirus doesn't exist. It does. It does. And like all I say to Tim constantly is, we had it, we went through it. It was not fun. I don't want to get it again. And we have to be vigilant, and we just need to, you know, practice what they're asking for. However, I have been really struggling a little bit with what's going on with me and my growth spiritually. And I said to Tim, and I used to live by this, like before I met Tim, I was living by this, is I choose to be happy. I choose to do whatever it is I'm doing. I want to do it and have fun. And if I'm not having fun, and I get it, there's responsibilities with everything that we do. If I'm not having fun, then don't do it. And today we were talking about that. So again, we kind of.
Yeah. And we'll get into that. You know, this show it's a health and wellness program. And we want to ask the people that are listening out there, you know, what's going on with you? What are you doing to take care of your health and wellness?
Whether are you going through it?
Yeah,
are
is
you
it
not?
Your mental health, whatever? And shoot us a message. You know, you can shoot Jen a message on Instagram or Twitter at
or Facebook.
Yeah, at Jen Jimenez, Jennifer Jimenez, Gimenez, or me at Tim Ryan Dope to Hope. But we want to hear from you. But yeah.
I think it's time. It's time. Tim has been having fun all afternoon before he found out about his friend dying, about who's going to be on our show right now. And I think you should do the intro.
Yeah, you know, we bring on a lot of different celebrities, actors, actresses, people in the industry. And this person that we're bringing on now is like a brother to me. I love him like a brother.
Well, he's family to both of us.
Yeah, he's family to both of us. But, you know, there's not many times that you get to work, spend time, build a friendship with our guest and his wife. But this guy is a true badass. But he was a badass on the gridiron, Baylor University, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 10 years, never missed a game, starting center. Our dear friend and brother, Randy Grimes. Welcome to the show, Randy.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. Finally.
It's about time, huh?
I know. I've been watching these episodes, and I'm wondering if I was ever going to get a call. Are you guys ashamed of me, or do I need a haircut? Do I stink?
You were getting the call.
Jennifer had to kind of, well, we got it. No, it's time. Here you are, Randy. Here you are. And if we were down in South Florida, we'd be doing this together, because that's where you are now in South Florida. What's been going on with you, man? How's life treating Randy Grimes right now?
Oh, life is as good as it can be right now. I mean, the family's been healthy. That's the main thing. And, you know, we've been touched by this epidemic also. And, you know, we're trying to do our part, but, you know, and you've seen this, both of you guys have seen this, you know, this industry, addiction, you know, that doesn't stop just because there's a COVID out there. And, you know, beds are full everywhere, and people are still struggling. They're still sick and suffering. And, you know, our work is never done, whether there's a pandemic going on or not. You know, we've got work to do. And, you know, that message that we, you know, you and I both have shared over the years is that it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not put your hand up. And,
Bingo.
you know, our work never ends.
No, it doesn't, Randy. And I didn't want to, how long have you been in recovery?
Right at 11 years.
Right at 11 years. And you've basically worked in the space for 10 years. But, you know, Jen and I were talking about this because addiction doesn't sleep, and, you know, the phone calls and helping and trying to get people in. But we also have to take a step back and take care of ourselves.
Self-care. I mean, like yesterday was our Sunday, right? I mean, on Sunday, we were like, oh, we're going to have downtime. We were on the phone for 12 hours trying to help somebody, and it was for fun and for free, right? And so we were helping them and their family member and all this stuff. And then finally it was like, we were both exhausted. Like, where does self-care come in? And like, how are you balancing being, you know, a father, a son, a father, a husband, your grandfather, someone who works in recovery, someone who is you, and like maintaining some sanity in the midst of all this? Like, what are you doing?
He goes to the beach and rubs on baby oil. That's exactly what he does.
You know better than that. You know, it's, I guess somehow you have to find some balance. I'm probably the worst at that than anybody. You know, if I try to take some time off or time away, you know, the phone's still going to ring, and I'm going to do everything I can, just like you guys did yesterday. You're going to do everything you can to help that person, because at the end of the day, when we think back, you know, that's what keeps us sober. And, you know, that gratitude just for the opportunity to help somebody else get to where we are right now, you know, that's the kind of stuff that keeps us sober. And none of us, the three of us on this show right now, none of us would ever pass up an opportunity like that. And I mean, I've seen you guys work. I've seen what y'all are willing to do, the level of commitment you have to people. And wow, if I was ever in trouble, I would hope that I would call one of you two.
Oh my God.
I'd be the first one showing up at your front door. Now, trying to pull you out, if you didn't want to go, it'd be a different story. I'd need a couple linebackers with me. But.
What people don't understand, first of all, like, I mean, I just melt when I see your face or hear your voice, and that you guys are such good friends and we get to talk all the time, or I get to hear you guys talk. What people don't know is, first of all, they do know you were a badass on the field,
and
right?
We'll get into that.
And
talk
you know,
about that.
all broken bone, like a bunch of broken bones, and still playing. And then, like, when I've heard about your documentary and like what it took to get you in to get help, and then all the work you've done since you got sober, like, I don't know if everyone knows your whole story.
Let's you know what, let's get into some of that.
I mean, it's Randy, crazy and awesome, because you're here to tell the story. And
you know, I graduated high school in '86. Of course, you started with the Buccaneers in '83.
83, yeah.
Randy, when did
you? Yeah.
83. So 85, of course, is when the Bears won the Super Bowl. But I actually watched football back then. And back then, you have to understand, it was down and dirty. I mean, there was, you know, some of the people, Randy was up the refrigerator. I mean, I don't know if you ever got hit by the fridge, but it was no candy coating. It was hardcore football. The equipment wasn't the equipment they're using today. So, I mean, real quick, you're from from Texas, West Texas?
Yeah, Central Texas, East Texas, Central Texas.
You ended up going to Baylor University. and won a championship there.
Yes, right.
And
Southwest
then
Conference champions.
Are you like sober during this time?
God, no.
You're partying, right?
College.
Well, yeah, college, not so much. Yeah, there was, and not only that, but I didn't really have any history in my family, that we could trace back to anything. It was, I met Lydia, my wife. I met her the first day our freshman year, and we went out.
That's because she was a beautiful cheerleader, right?
That helped, yeah.
I mean, she's so beautiful.
And then I married her after our junior year, and our plan was that she was going to teach, I was going to coach, and we were going to live that all-American life, And no, I didn't have the energy or the time or the money to party in college, with a lot of the other frat boys and everything else that was going on. And my life was all about football and Lydia.
So you graduate college. What round were you picked up in the draft?
I was in the second round of the 1983. I was the 45th player selected in the 1983 draft.
Wow.
And Randy and I have done a number of speaking events across the country, and I could tell Randy's story and he could tell mine. But, so you get on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you played 10 seasons?
Yeah.
Never missed a game.
I did miss a game. I missed the second half of that last season. I tore an ankle up. I dislocated an ankle and tore a foot up. So that second half of that last season is what I missed.
Okay, so basically you didn't miss a damn game for 9 seasons. You started
Are you
every
the only
game.
person to have never missed a game?
Say that again?
Are you the only person to have never missed a game?
Oh, no. There's guys out there that are just freaks, that have, not only have they played every game, but they probably never missed a down of practice either. So,
So Randy, why don't you get into, because your story's interesting in the sense of you didn't get you weren't an opiate addict or a benzodiazepine addict until 4 or 5 years into the NFL.
Yeah, it actually started about that first year.
So explain, how did this happen? How did you, I mean, you're a pro football player. You're not supposed to be doing drugs, are you? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, well, I tell people all the time, I played in that North Dallas 40 era of the NFL, where anything goes. But, I was always real good at listening and keeping my mouth shut. And when I got to that locker room in Tampa, the first thing I realized and the first thing I was taught was that this was not a game anymore. It was a job. I learned that real quick. And then the second thing I learned was you do whatever you have to stay out on the field, because if you're not out on that field, somebody else is going to be there in your position. And that was the last thing you wanted. And, you also never wanted to get the reputation of always missing practice or always being on the injury report or always being in line to see the team doctor or the team trainer, always back in the training room, getting worked on in the whirlpool or iced or something. You just didn't want to get that reputation because you were never going to get away from it in what was sure to be a really short career. So, what did that look like for me? Doing whatever I had to stay out on the field. It meant taking handfuls of pain pills, of opiates, to get through the practice, to get through the games, to play through the injuries, to stay out of the training room, and handfuls of benzos at night to get to sleep through all the throbbing, aching pains.
Did you play with broken bones ever?
I did. Not as many broken bones as I did just injuries, ligament, cartilage, broken fingers. Yes.
Things that normally should be healing up. You're just taking more opiates and then Xanax or benzos at night to try to sleep, to get back to practice, to get back out on the field, to play that next game the following week.
That's exactly right. And, I talk about this all the time too, and that this was going on for, let's say 9 years, let's say a good 9.5 years. And over that course of that 9 years, not once did anybody ever come up to me and say, hey, Randy, why are you slurring your words? Or Randy, why are you late for practice every day? Or Randy, why are you nodding off in meetings? Or Randy, why are you the last to leave the building every night and pills are missing out of the drug safe? Nobody ever asked me that because I was always playing good.
That makes me so sad. That honestly, like, that gets me so sad knowing that no one ever cared. And if they cared, they couldn't say anything because then they would be part of the problem.
Well, and I think too, it's because this became a business. And
I was going to say, and
Randy
the
played
is because it was a job now.
Yeah.
It wasn't a game anymore.
Right. And your job is to shut your mouth, get on the field. And as the company, if we know you got to do this, we just turned a blind eye because he played another good game and did what he needed to do and performed. Something else that's interesting, Randy, you've talked about, you were with the Buccaneers basically 10 years. How many coaches did they go through in 10 years?
I had 5 different head coaches in 10 years and six different position coaches, offensive line coaches, and probably 4 different general managers and probably 10 different quarterbacks. I mean, we were a revolving door of coaches, players, front office people, and just by the grace of God, I was able to survive every one of those changes.
Jeez. How many concussions did you have?
You know what? I've had over 20 documented.
Wow.
But, I also went and did a bunch of mapping, and I had my brain really examined last year at Tulane University. And, there was not a spot on there.
Thank God.
Amen.
Crazy.
That is amazing. Why don't you talk about your last couple of years in the NFL, Randy? What was it like?
Well, and you're talking about this being a game or being a business now and not a game. My responsibility, yes, was to stay out on that field, to be in my position every time the ball was snapped, but also to feed my family.
Right.
And to be the best center that I could be, and to be a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro. I mean, those were my goals. I wanted to be the best center that ever played the game. So I was willing to do what I had to do to stay out on the field. And I never looked at it. I knew it was a full-blown addiction, but I never looked at it like that. I looked at it like a necessary evil to be the best I could be, to be somebody that could feed my family and support my family. And so that's how I justified it. It was real easy to justify back then, but the last 2 years, it progressed to the point to where I was playing entire NFL football games in a blackout. I was taking so many opiates and so many, at this point, benzos before the game also, that I was playing these games in a blackout. I would be home at night, laying on the couch. I played a 1:00 football game on Sunday afternoon, and I would be home at 11, 12 o'clock that night, and I would start coming out of it, and I'd be all beat up and scratched up and fingernails all torn up and dehydrated and all the things that you are after an NFL football game. And I didn't remember playing a single down.
Wow.
And
I was out there for every snap.
And you wouldn't know that until Monday or whenever you were back at work reviewing the tapes from the previous game.
Yeah, I would have to wait and watch it the next day on film. And same thing, guys. I always played good, so nobody ever said anything about it. So we had a culture back then where they were handing out opiates and handing out benzos on the airplane ride back home from away games. We would leave our home locker room with our keys in our hand, walk into our car to meet our families that were waiting for us after the game. And as we left the door, they would hand us a little white envelope with 2 opiates and two Halcyon in there. And I don't know if you remember Halcyon,
sure.
But they were like granddaddy of Xanax. And that was, and 2 beers. So you would get 2 beers, 2 opiates, and 2 Percocets and 2 Halcyon as you left the door. That was the culture back then, you know? They just assumed everybody had an ache and pain. They just assumed everybody was going to have trouble sleeping that night. And then here's 2 beers on top of that to relax you right now. So that was the culture back then. And, you know, nobody questioned it. We had an open drug safe that was in our training room, and it had all the narcotics in there that you could ever want. And if they didn't give you enough of what you wanted or needed, you just go get your own.
Let me ask you a question. How is Lydia, your wife, at this time, saying anything, thinking it's normal, catching on? Where is that at?
You know, Tim, it was so hot and we practiced so hard and we beat the hell out of each other every day that for me to come home and crash on the couch for 4 or 5 hours after practice or after a game was not a red flag, you know?
It's so wild, like, because I sit here, you know, and people who are in recovery, right, that have heard war stories, we're like, oh my God, or we're like kind of giggle at or go, oh boy, Jesus, crazy, you know. But like to the normal person out there listening, or someone who's not really, you know, a family member of a loved one, they're not really understanding like why we would be giggling or just shaking our head like, wow, that's crazy. Because it's a war story, right? I mean, your story, just to think about like the NFL, like for me, like I'm a big football fan, right? So like to think like the NFL was like that, I'm like, no, what? You know, and we're supposed to be all American, right? Football, like it's like the, you know, but like all the pain. And meanwhile, wait, mentally, you're in pain. Right? Like physically you're in pain and emotionally you're in pain. So spiritually, your body, you're in pain. Mentally, you're in pain. Physically, like it's just like you hit all the realms of pain, you know, on a level that is so severe and so detrimental. And like to sit here seeing you, it's like, it's mind blowing.
What hit me too, and I don't want to get into Jennifer's story, but there's a lot of
I was gonna say
parallels
something,
with what you were saying, Randy. It was just normal. The same with Jennifer.
Like,
she comes on. I mean,
it was normal. I was the provider of my family. Like I had to feed my family, right? So like, you know, sexual assaults or like, you know, and I'm not telling my family that's happening as a kid, or, you know, not eating disorders or drugs. Like I'm not telling my family because I need to feed them. Like if they knew, you know, they'd be like, oh my God, there's a problem. Like, but everything's fine. You know, I call it the everything's fine syndrome, but it's not.
So I've heard Randy.
He was going to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, and Jen, everybody else is doing it, so it must be okay, right?
Yeah, it's the norm.
That's the way I looked at it. I mean, I'm getting it from Team Doctor, so it must be okay, or I'm getting it from the trainers, so it must be okay. I'm getting it from teammates, so it must be okay. That helped me even justify more that necessary evil.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So I want to. For the people that are listening here, you need to understand Randy Grimes is an individual that all he lived and breathed was football. Mm-hmm. You know, pee-wee football, high school football, goes to Baylor University. All he cares about is football and meeting Lydia and Lydia and football and getting married. Kids. And then he gets on to the NFL, football. Randy, can you share what it was like when football ended for you?
I remember, and I know you've heard the story. I tell it all the time because it's such a huge part of my, not only my addiction, but my recovery. You know, the last coach that I had was Sam Weish. And after that last game in 1992, back then you would come in after your last game, you'd watch the film from the day before. You come in on a Monday after a Sunday game, you'd watch the film from the day before. You'd have an exit meeting with your coach, and you would pack up everything in your locker, and you'd pretty much be gone until the next spring when minicamp started again. It's a lot different now. It's a year-round job now, but back then that's how it was. And I remember standing at my locker after that last game in 1992, and it was on a Monday, and I remember Sam Weish coming by me, and I was staring at my locker, And I was about to start packing it up, and I felt him put his hand on my shoulder. I heard him say, "Randy, your services won't be needed anymore." And I had a door that exited the locker room right next to my locker, and I saw him hit that door, and he walked out. And I mean, he didn't slow down. He didn't look me in the eye. He didn't stop long enough to say what he said. He just walked by. I felt the breeze of his body. I felt his hand on my shoulder. I heard those words. I saw him hit the door, and it was over. Randy Grimes, a football player, he didn't exist anymore. And I can remember thinking, wow, that's how it ends. And that was the year that I dislocated my ankle and tore my foot up. I knew that I couldn't go try out anywhere else. I'd had a 10-year career. I was 33 years old, and I knew it was over. And if I couldn't play for the Bucs, nobody else was going to take me. And I knew that it was over. And I can just remember thinking all the blood, sweat, and tears that I've left on football fields all over this country for years. And that's how it ends, with Sam Weish putting his hand on my shoulder and telling me that my services won't be needed anymore. And I just raked everything out of my locker into a black trash bag and walked out the back door. And Randy Grimes, the football player, didn't exist anymore.
Wait a minute.
I struggled with that.
I bet.
Wait, I'm struggling with it. Like, not even a handshake. Like, I struggled with people like just dropping me, you know, in life, like in jobs or this or that, and like, but your life every single day dedicated to these people and to that franchise, and not even a handshake, not even like a bad hug, like nothing.
Hey, can you come back and coach? Can you work with it? Can you? Because a lot of people in that situation look at it and say, you know what? I've been here 10 seasons. I can still have a career. I might not be able to play. I can work front office, back office. And just for it to be taken away, your identity for the past 25 years has been a football player. And now that is completely stripped away, you're in active addiction. And oh, by the way, get on with your life. Wish you the best of luck.
Well, it just shows what a business it is, and that it's not a game, and that there are no loyalties. And once they've gotten everything out of you that they can, then it's on to the next guy. And you're right. You know, I had an active addiction going, and now that I wasn't Randy Grimes, the football player anymore, was just throwing gasoline on an already raging fire.
Wow.
Whew, yeah,
Kind of reminds me of the industry we're in now.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, the thing is that society, and I talk a lot about this when we speak, and I always have, like, you know, I was taught that I was only as good as my next job cover campaign, right? Like, you were only as good as how you played, right? And
Right.
And when I chose to remove myself, but I knew I wanted to act, and then the acting, and then like I get sober, I'm like, oh, well, I'm a drug addict. And they're like, no, you're not a drug addict. You're not a model. You're not an actress. There's so much more depth and work and depth in you and weight inside of you to understand who you really, truly are internally, right? That comes in recovery. But like society today still freaking does that. And they'll say you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're an NFL player. Like, you will always be an NFL player. Like, you will always be talented in what you did, right? But they're just like, see ya, bye. You know, they chewed you up and spit you out. What do we do now? Like, and then you're like, oh, thanks for the addiction. Like, you know, you're stuck in this like in this hell.
So you leave the NFL. If I'm right, you went into the concrete world for a while, selling concrete or whatever. But then the rails came off, what, 15 years later, 20 years? When did the rails come off?
Well, the next 20 plus years, I mean, my full-time job really was doctor shopping all over Houston. You know, the injuries just—
That's a long doctor shopping.
The injuries just kept getting worse. The chronic pain just kept getting worse. My tolerance just kept getting higher. I needed more and more pills, so I needed more and more doctors, so I needed more and more pharmacies, so I needed more and more of our savings.
Yeah.
You know, I needed more and more of time away from everybody, so I was not present a lot. I mean, it was a full-time job, just keeping that addiction going. And, I just couldn't stop. I had some great jobs and great houses and cars and relationships, and lost all of them because I couldn't stop doing what I was doing. And I knew what was going on. I just couldn't stop doing it.
So when you were talking earlier, I wrote down a couple of things. Here you are now pill shopping, and it's a full-time job and all this, but you're really in physical pain. You're in true physical pain. Like, you have hurt yourself in your career. Now you're in physical pain. I hear a lot of people today, and since the day I started trying to get sober when I was 21, and that was a hot minute ago, that, people are like, oh, but I'm in excruciating body pain. Like, I don't think I cannot take something, like, that's such a great excuse. Because I'm in physical pain, I have to take this medication or that medication. Like, how do you, like, you're feeling all this pain, right?
Yeah, but Jen, at some point in that, everything kind of got all screwed up, and it wasn't about pain anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was about not feeling.
Right.
And numbing up and getting away. And, I can remember sitting on concrete jobs, or sitting on jobs where I'd sold a bunch of brick or something, and thinking, wow, how did it come to this? I used to be on a football field with 80,000 people, with reporters waiting for me after the game, with all the accolades that go with that, and that nothing's ever going to, match up to that again. Nothing's going to compare to that, and I'll never have that again. And, a lot of that self-medicating was not so much about the injuries at that point, because, hey, you know what? I was going to have pain, and it was about just numbing up and not feeling like Randy Grimes, not the football player anymore.
So we had talked about this, and I'm blanking on his last name, and it's probably a good thing, but in 93, 92, when I was living in Naperville, I met a guy, Tom, and we had talked about Tom. He played for the Jets and the Giants, and then his football career, and he was selling insurance and couldn't stay sober. And at 2 years and 1 day that he had taken out these life insurance policies, he committed suicide. And what it turned out was he couldn't handle living life, not being a celebrity. Just as you're talking about, I played in front of 80,000 people. I've been all over. People recognize me, and he couldn't just be an average person because there's no way to transition you. Here's a pat on the back, Mr. Grimes, your services are no longer needed. What? And I mean, it's just shocking.
It's hard. I mean, like, I got emotional. I got really emotional during that time because I understand that so vividly. So well. It's like you brought me back to all those moments in my life,
So here's where I'm going to get you now, Randy. So if I'm right, Lydia left you for a while. You're living in a foreclosed home of yours with no furniture. It's basically an abandoned house.
No utilities.
Yeah,
who needs lights at that point?
No utilities.
I get it. Trust me,
former NFL Gridiron Great, and now you're living in your abandoned foreclosed house with no utilities, electricity, strung out on opiates and benzos. And how did you end up getting help? Who helped you?
Well, and that's funny you say that, because, I can remember laying in that floor. All I had was a blanket and a little box TV that was laying on the carpet. And I don't know why, because it didn't have any electricity, so the TV wasn't working. But I can remember thinking, wow, I was a college All-American. I was a Pro Bowler. I married my dream girl, cheerleader, sweetheart. I've got 2 great kids. I was the 1988 NFL Man of the Year, and I'm laying here in the floor of an empty house with no utilities. And that's what it came to. That's what 25 plus years of addiction finally led me to where I was at that point. And Lydia, she didn't leave me. She couldn't love me to death anymore.
Right.
You know? She just had to distance herself for her own health, for her own boundaries. My daughter, I just had my first grandson, and my daughter wouldn't let me come around my first grandkid because I wasn't safe. You know, I shouldn't be around. And so those two things. I had a good friend named Tom McHale who I played with in Tampa, who passed away. He was doing the same thing I was doing, doctor shopping. He was self-medicating injuries he got while he played for the Bucs. We played side by side for many years. One morning he just didn't wake up, and that was all this spring of 2009. So it was a perfect storm happening. I'd had a series of seizures. Every time I would come off of Xanax, I would have a seizure like right away. And so whoever Lydia called, she was willing to make one more phone call for me. I mean, she had done everything that she could. She had got me in other treatment centers in Houston, and I failed at those, but she was willing to make one more call. And whoever she talked to that day at the league office knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. And that's how I got on an airplane that night to West Palm Beach to treatment, because at the time there was no resources out there for former NFL players through the league.
And is there a documentary on you going to treatment and all that, Randy? Because I've seen part of it.
Yeah, a documentary crew came in with me. They stayed with me the whole 90 days. I had some surgeries while I was in treatment. I had a knee replaced. I had some neck surgery. I had the other knee fixed. They documented all this, but you know what? Something happened and it never aired. So I still have all that footage from 90 days in treatment.
Wow. You said when you went into treatment, how did you go into treatment?
Well, that's what I was getting into, because in the clip I saw, Randy is at the airport. And how much do you weigh now? Honestly.
Honestly?
Yeah.
275.
What did you weigh when you were playing professional football?
295, 300.
So you're talking about someone that weighs 300 pounds. Randy was under 200 pounds. He was skin and bone, and he was eating handfuls of pills to get on the plane. And he literally, the limo clunker that got him to the treatment center, Randy literally crawled into that treatment center. And it wasn't, literally crawled. So then you go through, you go through treatment, and I want to expedite it because there's more I want to get into. But once you finally completed treatment and all that, Randy, you'd go back to that treatment center to pick up cigarette butts. Why?
You're gonna make me cry. I just love you.
I needed to be around those safe people. Those were the only safe people that I knew at the time. I needed them to hear my voice and see my eyes every day. I needed that accountability. And, you guys said something a minute ago that, it wasn't even about not being a celebrity anymore. It was more about not having structure and accountability and having a coach say, good job, Randy. That's what I missed more than being a celebrity or getting, because I'm an offensive lineman. You're not going to get your name in the paper very much, for that, unless you're holding a lot.
Right.
But, it was just that accountability is what I needed after treatment, because when that door hit me in the rear end after 90 days, I was scared to death. And I didn't trust Randy Grimes, and I didn't trust Randy Grimes going back to Houston. That's why I stayed in Florida. And I needed to be around those safe people that I knew.
You moved into sober living. You went into sober living and got a sponsor and did what you needed to do.
I needed to be around those the safe people. And I still do. Like, even today, I was like, just tell me I'm okay. Like, and I feel like every time we do a podcast, I'm saying this, but like, I literally need to know at times that I'm okay. And it's people like you and Tim and my sponsor and my girlfriends that are in recovery, and my, and the community saying you're fine. Like, I still need that. Like, I get that what you're saying, and you're, 15, a lot of yesterday's years almost later, I still need that, you know?
Well, you know what it takes me to, Randy, is like 2 years ago on my social media, my Facebook, 2 years ago today, me and you were with my son Max in Michigan, and we were doing 25 speaking events in 5 days. And I mean, it was wheels up at 4 a.m, go to bed at 1 a.m. It was hardcore, a ton of fun.
Didn't you guys torture Max?
Max, me, Randy picked me up by the back of my underwear and my pants. I have that picture. But you know what? That camaraderie, the high fives, you just did. I miss that right now because we're doing speaking events through Zoom and this and those simple things I miss, you know?
I mean, like, there is something really profound, and I hope somebody out there is really listening. Like, you went back every single day and picked up cigarette butts. Like, you had that you made that commitment for yourself. Like, we'll go to any lengths, right? Like, and we just need that human connection and purpose. Yeah. And you had it, that's a really pivotal place in someone's foundation for their recovery.
Well, and that was the only way I could get back on that campus because I wasn't a client anymore. I'd been discharged. And, by doing that, going back on there every day, week after week after week, it led to them asking me to come in and volunteer my time doing alumni calls. And I jumped all over that opportunity. I get to share what I'd been through, with alumni and see how they're doing. And, one thing led to another to where we are tonight, here 11 years later. But, I just, even now, guys, and y'all can relate to this, I still need that accountability,
Absolutely.
I need that structure. And Jen, you said something just now, or Tim, you did. People ask me all the time what I miss most about playing, and it's not being out on that field under the lights, between the bleachers, the cheerleaders, the pyrotechnics, and all that. It's not that. I miss the locker room. And that's what recovery has given me back, is a locker room of like-minded people trying to do the same thing I am and have been to the same places I've been.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're making me cry. I mean, there's a name of your book.
What?
Off Center.
The locker room.
The locker room, yeah, Off Center. So, I mean, it brings me back, Randy, because we worked together for the same treatment program and for a couple years. And I got to tell you, I'm looking back on just my 6.5 years of doing what I do. And I'm not saying this because you're my guest, but some of the best times I had was working with you. I love you like a fucking brother. You are a brother. And ride or die. It's we had some good times and we have more to come. But I want to talk about some of the good things you've been doing.
Yeah.
What's Athletes in Recovery?
You know what? Like I said earlier, there was no resources for former NFL players back when I came in. So, that was the birth. I was sitting at a picnic table. It was 2 weeks into to detox. I was sitting at a picnic table on the campus, and it was 8:45 in the morning. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was 15 minutes before the first group, and I used to get up every morning and write. And for some reason, doing that made me feel better. I'm not a big writer, but it made me feel better. I used to write about what was going on around me, how I was feeling, what was up then. And this particular morning, I couldn't stop sobbing. I couldn't get a hold of myself. And I can't imagine what a 275-pound man sitting at a picnic table in the middle of a rehab campus looks like, sobbing uncontrollably. But I could not get a grip on myself because I couldn't get over that obsession to throw pills down. And I also had to deal for the first time in 20 something years with all the guilt and shame of the destruction that I left back in Houston with my family. And I was having to deal with all that sober. And, it was like somebody came up behind me while all this is going on and draped a warm quilt around my shoulders and I say quilt because I remember feeling weight and warmth on me, but I also remember that obsession being lifted off of me then. And I also remember just automatically getting the confidence that I could do this, that I was going to make it, that I was going to be okay. And that was kind of the birth of Athletes in Recovery right then. I knew that there was other guys that I'd played with and against that were still out there sick and suffering, self-medicating, doing whatever they could do to not feel anymore. And I knew that they weren't raising their hands and asking for help because they didn't think anybody else was going through it, or they didn't think there was any resources available. So I wanted to make everything that I had been through and I'd put my family through, I wanted to make it mean something. And that was the birth of Athletes in Recovery. And, we started, I had a year sober. I started working on putting this plan together, putting this nonprofit together, working with the NFL to help other former players, the Player Care Foundation, the Alumni Association, the Players Association. Guys were coming out of the woodwork wanting help, and it was so successful. We helped so many guys. I'm so proud of that it reached over into Major League Baseball, that it reached over into the NHL, to the NBA, to the Jockeys Guild, to Motorsports Safety Group, to MMA, to golfers, to tennis players, because regardless of what sport you played, we all have the same issues, and it's always chronic pain, and it's always some kind of transitional trauma. Back when Sam Weish put his hand on my shoulder, it goes back even before any trauma happened to something transitional, whether it was a broken home or a CEO retiring or a college kid who graduates and can't find a job. It's always something transitional.
I like that. And I don't like the trauma, but I love the way you phrase that. I don't think I've heard transitional trauma before.
I mean, it just makes so much sense. I don't think I've ever heard it either. And
boy, you're so impressing me more and more every day, Randy.
Well, and look at what our veterans go through when they don't have a uniform to put on anymore.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was going to say something about that. I know that, I remember when my brother was ending his military time of 6 years, right? Gave up his life, 6 years, fought for our country. And he's like, so they're teaching us how to exit. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, going back into civilian or something like that.
Civilian life.
And I'm like, okay. And he called me one day and I'm like, don't tell me. They taught you how to put your arm out and say, hi, my name is Dwight. I'm nice to meet you. And he goes, they did. And I'm like, what? But then it was over, you know what I mean? It's just done. And
yeah, well, it's the same thing that's why, what Randy does and I do and Jennifer does, it's getting people and trying to guide and direct them to the appropriate care that's the longest possible continuum of care, so they have the best shot to have what you have, Randy, I have, and Jennifer, is true long-term recovery, freedom from the bondage of self, in the lives we have today. It wasn't easy. You were, homeless, basically in an abandoned house. Jennifer opted to hang herself in the psych ward, and I had a judge do it for me and sentence me to prison. And, how we've all come together is a miracle, but I want to commend you first, Randy, because I don't think you realize how many lives you have touched. And when we were in Kentucky a couple years ago, I can't remember the young kid's name that spoke, but without you, that young kid wouldn't have been sober. And you scholarshiped him into treatment, meaning he had no insurance. And the gratitude that young man has and still has for you. I've seen the lives you touched. I know what you do, and you still touch today. Where do you see all this going? How has it affected some of the athletes and things now with COVID? Has it really stopped them getting help? What are you seeing with all the whole COVID thing going on right now?
Well, no, it hadn't really stopped. Hands are still going up. If anything, it's probably gotten worse. Obviously the organizations have shut down travel, but certainly anybody that needs help, that wouldn't affect them. They would do whatever they had to get a player the help they need. But, life goes on, and we've got work to do, and there's people still out there that are hurting. The telephone's still ringing, and there's still people calling with no insurance, and it takes another 10 or 15 calls to find a place for them to land. But life goes on, virus or not. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. Yeah, I get frustrated sometimes. I get mad. I get upset with parents or with families that are blocking somebody from getting the help that they need. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful for the opportunity to give back, because, hey, let me tell you, when I fell out of the car that night and crawled in, I was desperate. I was desperate to get well and get my life back and get my family back. And I still have that desperation today.
Amen. Amen. Randy, how can people that are listening, if they want to contact you or follow you, how can they contact you, follow you on social media, call you, get help?
Yeah. And of course, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, Sober Center 60. You can find me on Instagram. Go to my website, which is proathletesinrecovery.org. Or I still have my randygrimespeaks.com. You can always find me there at those, and you can get in touch with me there. Or, hey, my telephone number is on my Facebook account. So if you need anything or just need to talk or whatever, you can give me a call anytime.
You're amazing.
You
are amazing. I need you to come back sooner than later.
Yeah.
Please come back. We want to have you back in the new year.
Yeah.
I want you guys to come back to Florida. Get out of that.
I think you're the 18th person.
You're about the 18th, and we're on the pendulum of, do we come to Florida and spend a month or whatever there, or do we stay? We're still up in the air, but I'll call you offline. But Randy Grimes, badass from the Gridiron, out there doing tons of amazing things for athletes, people in recovery.
One of your best
One
friends,
of my best
one of our
friends
family
in the world.
members.
We absolutely
are so
love
honored
you.
to have you on, to know you, to have you in our lives. We love you so much.
You're sweet.
And Lydia.
And I feel the same. I feel the same.
I know that. For the Tim and Jen show, we want to thank our guest, Mr. Randy Grimes. Yes. And again, if you're struggling out there, one of the things all three of us talked about, put your hand up and ask for help. You can go to Randy's pages. You can follow us at dopetohope.com or call our 800 number, 844-611-4673.
Thanks you guys so much for listening, and stay safe out there.
Thank you for tuning in to the Tim and Jen show. Have an amazing day. Peace. We want to talk to you about Clean Cause, better caffeine. What's in the can? Our organic, sparkling Herba Mate is a premium pick-me-up that won't let you down. Every can of Clean Cause contains 160 milligrams of better caffeine, and each sip supports recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. 50% of the profits go to assist people into sober living. Check out cleancause.com.
Seaside Palm Beach is an executive luxury addiction treatment center located in Palm Beach, Florida. Our private clients come from all over the world, including business executives, professional athletes, celebrities, and more. Seaside Palm Beach offers first-class amenities and high-end accommodations, including a gourmet culinary experience, ocean views, pet-friendly facilities, and access to cell phones and laptops during your stay. If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please call us at 877-959-5053. Again, that number is 877-959-5053.
Hope. At Rosecrans, it's more than a wish. Hope has power. As the proven behavioral health leader in the Midwest, no other program offers our depth of experience and hope here at Rosecrans. And when someone you love struggles with substance abuse and mental illness, hope plays an important part in recovery. Life's got bigger plans for you. We should know. We're the most trusted name in treatment and the best choice for those who dare to hope. Visit us at rosecrans.org. Life's waiting.
Now, glutathione is a big word, but it's the body's own master antioxidant. So it's a scavenger for free radicals, for bacteria, and what's relevant now, viruses. This is new to the marketplace. There's no other product on the market that has the ingredient NACET.
And basically NACET increases the production of that glutathione that is in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system and keep it strong. Elevated sense of well-being. Supports muscle strength and endurance. Cognitive function. Powerful liver support. Energy. Helps blood sugar regulation. Superior bioavailability of key ingredients.
One of your best defenses against COVID is a strong immune system. Taking GSH Plus as a daily supplement does all that. And now we have the product out on the marketplace.